Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about rentals and the question of, are there realtors available to help with rentals? The easy answer is yes. Yes, there are definitely realtors out there that do rentals, that help with the rental market and help tenants in finding rentals, but it's a little more complicated than that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So as a real estate agent, you're able to help buyers, sellers, tenants find property, etc. But the one caveat to that is that, the rental market is a bit different because as a real estate agent, when listing a property, we use the MLS. So we put that property on the MLS. It syndicates to all the other sites out there so that anybody looking to buy a house will see it on pretty much all of those sites. And then as a listing agent, if I'm listing a rental property, if you will, for rent, I can also put it on the MLS and it syndicates to all of those websites out there so that anybody looking for a rental will find it. The caveat here, which I talked about earlier, is that while I'm available to help tenants find a rental, the majority of rentals out there aren't on the market, right? They're not out there on the MLS, if you will. They're on the market, but not on the MLS, right? And so as a real estate agent, I really only have access to the MLS with regards to what's available for rentals. And the reason that a lot of the rentals aren't on the MLS is that it's private parties that are doing them, right? So if I'm an owner and I put my house up for lease, if you will, I don't have access to the MLS. So my options are to put a sign in the yard that says for lease. I think there are websites like Zillow that allow me to go in and actually enter the property in there so that some people will see it. I can use a property management company, and then that property management company may have a website where people go to look at rentals, and they may blast it out to certain people or what have you, or have their own little sites. But for the most part, the smaller property management companies, the mom and pops that are looking to rent their properties, when they put something up for lease, it doesn't syndicate out there where I have access to see it. So the only way I would be able to see it is to go into the same websites that you, as a tenant, are able to go into. And there's a lot of websites out there that are really good for rentals, like HotPads. Zillow's a pretty good one as well. And those are the two big ones, but there's a lot of little off ones as well that have access to rentals. But the reason I bring this up, because I often get people coming to me to look for rentals or leases or however you want to describe them. And unfortunately, I only have access to what's available out there, right? And that's what's on the MLS. All the other smaller sites, I have the same access that you have, so I can go do the same research that you can. But unfortunately, a lot of those smaller mom and pops and property management companies and what have you that aren't putting it on the MLS, they're not paying me as a real estate agent to go out there and bring a tenant to them. And that's the main reason they're not using the MLS, right? They're using some of these smaller websites because they're trying to contact or have the tenant contact them directly, and therefore they're not having to pay an agent to bring in the prospective tenant to them directly, right? It keeps any outgoing money to another agent very, very low, and they're able to find tenants directly, right? And a lot of these mom and pops, a lot of these property management companies want to do their own background checks, if you will, on prospective tenants by looking at pay stubs, credit reports, and what have you. They want to do that running of reports themselves versus having an agent come in and bring in all the information, right? So the answer to the question is yes. Yeah, a real estate agent can definitely help you find a rental, but the caveat is what they have access to is going to be somewhat limited compared to you as a tenant and what you have access to. Seems a little backwards because you would think as a real estate agent, I would have the same access as you as a tenant, but unfortunately that's not the case. And then the other thing is, you have access to Craigslist and some of these others, but you have to be careful with Craigslist and some of these where there's really no verification because there's a lot of fraud out there. There's a lot of people out there misrepresenting property. So make sure if you are looking at one of those websites that, you're actually speaking to the right people and and not just taking it at face value, right? Because I've had people put my listings on Craigslist to lease them out when they weren't actually for lease, they were actually a property for sale. So keep that in mind. Just make sure you're checking with people that may know what's going on, because if it's a deal out there that seems almost too good to be true, if it's a rental that's leasing for way more or way less than what you think it should be leasing for, chances are it's probably a scam. So just make sure that if you're not using a real estate agent to help you, that you're doing your due diligence to make sure that you're not getting scammed, if you will. But if you do have questions about rentals, leases, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help, and if I'm not able to help, I'm happy to guide you in the right direction and put you in touch with somebody who can guide you in the right direction. So as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we'll see you again soon. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.